My pappy said, son, you're gonna drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.
Hey, it's ODB, aka the Lincoln Addict. So I'm here working on my 64 today. Wanted to just kind of do a quick video. Before I get started, wanted to give a huge shout out to Nathan Wilson. Make sure you search on YouTube Driving Dreams Restorations. Nathan's a really good guy. He helped Tony and I out about a weekend ago. We were coming back from Daytona and had a little bit of a hiccup with something that we were ran into, and basically Nathan was a few miles away. He came out, helped us out, chopped it up, talked to him a little bit. We didn't get to go by his place, but we will soon, and looking forward to it. So thank you, Nathan Wilson. The guy's videos are amazing, and he's doing a lot of cool stuff with these Lincolns, showing folks how to do kind of restoration type work and just different cleanup and things like that with seat tracks and all sorts of things. So big ups, Nathan Wilson. He's on the rise. So here's what we got going on today. Basically, I'm working on the engine bay. My engine's been out a little while in the car. And the good news with that is it's allowed for me to really kind of work on and do the stuff that I want to do with it. So firewall is real cleaned up. It had light surface rust. And I'll kind of show a video here with some of the audio of the engine bay. But basically did some POR 15, that's POR-15 on the lower part of the firewall. Love that stuff. You know, there was obviously a lot of cleanup before any of that started. And then Daniel Smith at SmithWorks. You can follow him on Instagram. It's at Smith and then WORKX. He came by, he painted the engine bay. You may have seen that video that I did. I'm kind of starting to move into the lower firewall and kind of just knock things off the list. So with that being said, there is this, I don't know if it's referred to as a manifold. I call it like a bulkhead type deal. And this goes through the firewall just like this, right back here. And you have all of your vacuum hoses that come into this and then into the car. This can be, at least I'll speak for myself, you know, I'm not an expert when it comes to all this. I'm learning. I have friends that I sometimes will ask questions, and I'm on the lincolnforum.net a lot. There's various Facebook groups, plenty of people out there to help you, including Nathan Wilson. But with this guy, you know, I had taken all of the vacuum hoses. They pretty much fell off from the firewall right here, down here in this area. And it's because of the heat, and those vacuum hoses, they get really, really, you know, just old, you know, brittle. So they'll pull right off on the outside. What I didn't do is I haven't made a diagram yet on where all these go, but I do have a new harness. Blair Farmer, he offers great services over at Lincoln Continental Services in Clearwater. He did that for me. You know, anyone that's out there, if you've got a bunch of vacuum hose that you go pick up, you can basically take your harness and you can cut it. He actually labels it, and he'll give the customer or his client, if you will, he'll give them a diagram on where everything goes here. But what I did, and I kind of wanted to wait to start going inside the car because as many of you know, with these cars or with any project, it can quickly get out of hand. So what I ended up doing was kind of focused my energy and time in the engine bay, and that's starting to kind of get wrapped up. The motor's going to be done soon, and I kind of wanted to move and say, okay, well, what's the next thing on the list? And you probably can't see here, but as I was working in the firewall or in the engine bay, I could kind of see there's some debris in some of these different ports. And I said, you know what? It's only going to take about 15 to 20 minutes to take this bad boy out. So I went under the dash, and you will see this item or this piece, and you'll take out this one screw here that allows you to kind of pull this if you need. But there's 3 screws that take this out after you take this one out here. And what that allows for you to do is basically take off all the vacuum hoses, pull this out, and then I'll do a video once my GoPro battery charges. I'll do a video, real simple. I'm going to use this tool here. Buy at any hardware store. You guys probably have one of these, obviously, and just blow out each of those lines. Now, if you really want to get crazy, you could go back and you could, you know, kind of clean this up with some soap and water, and then you could even go and put the paint, is it called splotch? Paint splotches the color, color coded. But what I did was I literally made my own little diagram taking this out. So there's 3 ports on the left side, so that's closest to the steering column, and then I call it like 3 different rows here. So what I did was I took, as I was taking the first row off from inside the car, and by the way, once you take the 3 bolts out, this will kind of twist a little bit. So, you can kind of pull it around the carpet if your stuff's still factory, and basically you got a little bit more wiggle room. So with my car being pretty untouched, all of the compressors turning on here. Kind of go over here where it's a little bit more quiet. All of the color codes for the most part were there. Now some of them have literally almost like a piece of tape. You can buy that stuff, I'm sure, like at Office Depot and places like that. But for the ones that don't have the tape on it, like the greens, the yellows, the blues, there are some that are just black vacuum hose and they have a line in it, almost like color-coded wiring, right? So you guys have seen that, and some of the colors are hard to tell apart, but just kind of take your time, look up a little bit further on the vacuum hose, and I literally made like a box on a piece of paper, and I said, okay, this is row 1, and these are the colors, boom, boom, boom. There's like 5, right? And then row 2, or the middle row here, there's another 5, and I kind of put this bigger one on my list, or on my little diagram. It's on row 2, if you will. So it's really the only bigger size vacuum hose on the top portion of this. So basically labeled that, and then once you have those, 10? Once you have those 10 hoses pulled off and kind of move to the left, then on my car at least, you had these 5, and with those, they actually had a piece of tape around them, and they were kind of bundled together. So some of those colors were very similar to these other colors, believe it or not, but I still made the little diagram, and I made that the back row, and pretty much just labeled everything and kind of pushed the back row, bundle over to the right, kind of kept them as close as I could. I'm pretty OCD when it comes to things, so like within Nathan's videos, like he'll show a lot of what he's doing. I'll try to do that as much as I can, since I'm always seemingly messing with these. But again, if you really wanted to get crazy, you could come back here with some paint or some sort of Sharpie or marker, if you could get something that matched all these colors. But for me, I'm not so concerned with really soap and water on this guy. You're never really going to see it. My concern is I want to just blow out these ports and make sure there's no debris in there. Now, there probably isn't, but again, working through the firewall and spraying some paint and painting and stuff, it's like I kind of could tell in some of these ports that it looked a little bit nasty. And there's no point to blow air from the firewall in if you have all the vacuum ports or all the vacuum lines still on there. So, you can kind of decide, maybe you don't even want to take this out. Maybe you want to leave it in, take all the hoses off, and then blow from the outside or from the inside out. But then again, it's kind of hard to get to this without taking those 3 little bolts out and then pulling this to the side. So you guys can decide what you want to do, but hopefully these videos will help you, and I'll be posting a lot more. Lincoln Addict, appreciate those that have listened to the podcast. There is 5 or 6 episodes. We just had John Cashman, the legend from Lincoln Continental, the guru, if you will, for the windows and the tops. Blair is really, really good as well. So if you need services here in the Clearwater area, you have a couple of options. But Blair Farmer, he's kind of an independent Lincoln mechanic, is what we refer to him as, and he's happy to take care of you as well. So with that being said, I'll do a little video here in a minute of me blowing out these ports. Very simple. And I'll try to put a couple photos to some of the audio once I put this together in post-production. So appreciate everyone watching, and make sure you subscribe. ODB, aka the Lincoln Addict, I'm out. Peace. Hey, so here we go. I've got a basic tool that you probably have in your garage. I have a pancake compressor at about 140 PSI right now. And with one of these small air blowguns, you know, typically a lot of them just have the metal end coming off, which is fine. This one's a little bit nicer of one. It has this plastic piece, so if you want to use it, you could easily put each of these on here like this, But what I have found is it's just even easier with this end that I have on here. You can kind of see right here the size. Super, super easy. You literally stick it over each of these ports right here. Come here on the back side if you want to do that and go to that that level. And then don't forget to blow out the side. So I can feel really good airflow coming out of here. And then I'll just take the air and blow out this. This is the firewall, or excuse me, this is the firewall side right here. So you can get any debris out of there. And there you have it. You'll make sure that there's nothing in here clogging up. What I'm gonna do is basically finish the engine bay, get the car running again, running and driving, and then on another project, when I do some work with the amp gauge, Blair Farmer can rebuild those as well. But when I do that work, what I'll end up doing is redoing the entire harness inside the car, so that everything inside and outside, at least under the dash for now, will be good to go. But this way, I got everything labeled on my piece of paper, and I know where everything goes. And now, without leaving this out too long, I'll be able to put this back in there, hook everything back up, and know that everything's where it should be. I know I'll speak for myself. Oftentimes, projects turn into longer term than you expected, and the challenge there is you kind of forget. So I highly encourage, as Nathan does, take photos, take video. Many of you have an iPhone or a Pixel or Android device that have fantastic cameras, including video. So take a small video of what you're doing. Some of the video that I'll bake in here under the dash will kind of show you how I kind of split up the harness in there as far as the vacuum. But what I have found is, whether you're taking bolts out or things such as that, just go ahead and try to put things back the way they were. And in this case, I only took this out an hour ago, cleaned it up, and now it's ready to go back in. So hopefully this is something that is helping you out. And leave a comment below and make sure you subscribe. Thank you. So here's what I would recommend for anyone that hasn't taken out their vacuum harness yet. When you first take it out, go ahead and make a diagram of where everything goes on that bulkhead fitting / manifold. The reason why I say that is it's going to make your life a lot easier, because you may not be dealing with a Lincoln expert in your town like I do. Blair Farmer helps me out a lot. I try to help him when he needs it, and he basically made this harness here, right? And he made it off of that harness, which is the original. He does color code everything, so that's a huge plus, right? I will tell you, this stuff, as I mentioned, was all super brittle. You can see it's not pliable really at all. But what I essentially did was, I really just, it kind of fell off, that manifold. So I didn't take the time to really label everything. But again, if you pay, an expert like Blair to do a job, he'll take care of you kind of from beginning to end. Another thing that I like that he does, which is simple, right? And you can do this in your garage, is he'll hit these with the wire brush. So they look really clean. And you can kind of see, like these over here, I'll return to him because I used some of his. But you can see how nasty everything gets. And, like Nathan mentions in his videos, it's one of those things where, you don't have to do it. A lot of it's cosmetic. You don't have to pull your motor. You can do a lot of the stuff with it in the engine bay. But if you ask me, it's just easier to take the motor out and do the work and have the work done. I'll tell you that, and that's my opinion. But you can kind of see here, if there's not a color that he has like in the tape, you know, he can hit it with some paint, and that's part of the, you know, if you really want to get crazy with the restoration. But yeah, man, it's going to be nice, and knowing that none of this stuff is leaking, or, you know, one of these hoses falls off the manifold, and you guys know what that will mean is, you know, leaking life. You'll have some sort of weird problem, or something won't be working, and you'll be frustrated. So if you're going to pull your motor, just do it all. Take your time. It's not a race. I call it a marathon. All right, y'all.
My pappy said, son, you're gonna drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.